Okay, as we enter the next part of my history and my religious roots, um, now I'm coming to the next church that we went to, and I am pretty sure the more I think about it that this one came later than the Salvation Army. Actually, I think probably maybe 3 years later. I think I was probably maybe a freshman in high school or around that time, maybe a little earlier, maybe a little later. I'm not exactly sure. But it was a church I went to with a friend by the name of Johnny Whitaker. Now, Johnny Whitaker, my friendship began with him all the way back into elementary school because we went to elementary school, all through elementary school together. And we had an on or off relationship. Sometimes we were best of friends, and then sometimes we weren't getting along so well. And a lot of times, I was kind of strange because sometimes instead of wanting to play with him, I wanted to play my own games by myself in the backyard. I used to have a whole baseball game. I used to play by myself with baseball teams. I remember I had my own baseball team and my own lineup and everything else. My dad liked baseball. He liked listening to Ernie Harwell since he was in Michigan and the Detroit Tigers. And so I liked baseball and I liked to make my own game and my own leagues. And I remember my bike was even the bus that took our team to my backyard, which is supposed to be the baseball stadium, and play. And I don't know how I got off on that, but anyway, Johnny Whitaker I did know, but still knew when I got into high school, and we were still friends. And he wanted me to go to his church, which was a new church that was just built called the Northeast Baptist Church. And it was off of Argyle Street on a street. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's a street I didn't even know about, even though I rode my bike everywhere, and it wasn't that far from our house, maybe 12, 13 blocks, but if that. But it was on a little side street that dead ended off of Argyle. But anyway, we went to church there, and I did talk my cousins into going there. And I guess I should give you a little background on my cousins. When I talk about my cousins, I had a lot of cousins on my dad's side because my dad was the child of, I think they had 8 or 9 kids. I have to count up all my aunts and uncles. Maybe I'll do that on another edition. But they, of course, all had a lot of children, or they had children. Some of them had a whole lot of children, but I never knew them. Very many of them. I knew my Aunt Marie's kids who were older than me, like about 10 years older than me. It was Diane and Jimmy and Mike. And, uh, and they were really the only ones I knew out of all of them. We didn't go visit my dad's family very much. We went and visited my Aunt Marie and my Uncle Bob and Aunt Pearl. They all lived in Battle Creek, about 20 some miles away. My Uncle Bob and Aunt Pearl, they had no kids of their own, but they did adopt a child later whose name was Mary. And we do have some tragedy on that side of the family. I mentioned my Aunt Marie's kids. They were Jimmy and Mike and Diane. Diane, I think, was like 10 years older than me. Mike, maybe 12, and Jimmy a little more than that. But Mike, when I wasn't very old. In fact, I think this wasn't too long after my grandpa Brockway died, maybe around 1973, when I was 12 or so. Um, Mike was either murdered or, um, at least that's what the family believed. There were a lot of questionable circumstances, and I don't think the murder was ever followed. And then later, after I grew up, um, my cousin Mary, who was adopted, would be murdered. And so that was sad, but that comes much later. And I see I've used up most of the time. I got off on my dad's family, and I think maybe I'll continue there a little bit and eventually get back. I just want to record these things in history too as I remember them.